Please be seated. Can I ask all mobile phones to switch to silent? It was perfect when we came in there, one started ringing. Or switched off, please. Can we move on to apologies received, please? I've got Councillor O'Donoghue, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Nightingale and Councillor Graham Jeffery. Any more? Thank you. Sorry. Yep. Have you got all these? Sorry, Councillor Kerr. Oliver, yeah. Have you got them? Councillor Smith, can you just announce yours again? Sorry.
Apologies. Councillor Hanaway, apparently he's had an argument with a scaffolding pole and has gone to hospital. I don't know any update. He walked into it.
Right. Councillor Nightingale, Councillor... Carol. Councillor Morgan. Sorry. Chris Jones, yeah. And Councillor Kerr, what was yours again? Got them all, Steve, yeah? Anyone else? Councillor Davies, did you say any? No. Brilliant. Plenty of time yet. Right, move on then. Can we, the green form's going around. If anyone's got any interest to sign, please. Can we confirm the minutes of the last meeting on the 27th of February, please? Moved. Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Yes?
Name and the attendance.
There's a T missing.
Yeah.
Right, okay, we'll get that sorted. Any more matters arising? No? Thank you. Move on just to note the attendix matrix. Do we have any come through to me as Mayor announcements? So I'd just like to thank everybody who's bought tickets to my charity ball, which is a week on Saturday, the 12th of April. Thank yous to everyone who's given us a prize, and hopefully it'll be a fantastic evening. On Thursday, the 8th of May, the country will mark the anniversary of VE Day, and we have events taking place throughout the borough. Councillor Taylor, as Armed Force Champion, would like to speak on this. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'm honoured to be standing here in front of you today, Armed Forces Champion, provide a brief update of significant progress we've made in supporting our veterans and service personnel and family here in Redcar and Cleveland. Following the motion that we brought to Council, I'm pleased to announce that we've unanimously committed to achieving a gold status under the Armed Forces Covenant. This is a significant step in ensuring that our veterans service families receive the support they deserve. Interviews for this key role in delivering this ambition is pleased to say that the interviews were completed this morning, which were all outstanding. I've also attended meetings with other council forums to ensure the needs of our armed forces community are fully integrated across all levels of local government, and as part of this commitment, we have implemented a new Covenant Liaison Officer who will now sit within the Community Safety Partnership meetings to ensure that veterans issues are properly considered in the widest Community Safety Partnership discussions. In addition, I've held constructive meetings with the Office of Veterans Affairs, working closely with key stakeholders to ensure support services for our veterans within the borough. I'm pleased to report I've also received strong backing from both our local MPs and have met with the Minister of Veterans Affairs, Al Cairns, who have shown a fantastic support for the work we do here in Redcar and Cleveland. Furthermore, I'm delighted to announce that following successful meetings and strong, our Armed Forces Covenant is set to be broadened and strengthened once passed through Parliament later this year. This will ensure organisations are signed up to the Covenant and will be legally binding obligations, meeting veterans support across all levels of government. The major events this year, as the Mayor's just pointed out, the 80th anniversary of VE Day, which we've been working closely within the council groups and the Royal British Legion. Armed Forces Day, featuring the parade in Redcar and other local events across the borough, and then our annual remembrance services in November. To commemorate VG Day, The Mayor will be hosting a special civic reception where veterans from World War II, along with workers, will be formally recognised for their services in World War II. As part of this event, certificates of appreciation were presented here in the Civic in August the 15th with afternoon tea, along with their carers and families in support. This year I've successfully proposed an extension to the Mayor's annual Community Awards. This includes a new category for our Armed Forces community. These awards will recognise outstanding contributions of cadets, community groups or individuals or businesses that have gone above and beyond to support our service members and their families. These awards will be presented during our Armed Forces Day celebrations in June. I'm also proud to highlight some of the significant steps the progress has been made in veterans-friendly housing care within Redcar and Cleveland. As detailed previously in meetings, we've got an ongoing veterans village that's well on in Boosbeck, that's opening in the summer, and I thank everyone for their outstanding support from the local community here in the council and the services. Skelton Care Home, one of the first care homes in Redcar and Cleveland, as part of received the Veterans Friendly Framework accreditation. This is rolled out by Royal Star and Garter, and it's a commitment to supporting veterans in care to make sure that we look after our elderly residents and support them on key dates and strategies. And what they will have is they will also have their Armed Forces champions within there. And March the 10th was a day of celebration and sorrow. On the morning, I attended a 98-year-old veteran in the Eston Care Home called Dennis Smith. He's been awarded the French's highest honour for his services on D-Day and the battles commencing there in the liberation of France. This was presented in front of his family and friends and myself with the Lord Lieutenant and the Brigadier General from the French military. It was an incredible moment to witness and the recognition for his bravery at just what people thought was 18 years old. The afternoon, we attended the sad funeral of another 80-year-old veteran, Frank. Frank participated also in the D-Day landings and attended his funeral on that afternoon. In a moment of reflection, as we move forward, I call on the Council to continue our collective commitment to deliver meaningful support to our Armed Forces community. We'll soon be updating the website and updating further news, and there's no better people to share it within our communities than our fellow councillors here in this room. We have made such a great progress in the short period of months, so let's just ensure that Redcar and Cleveland remains a place where veteran service personnel and their families are valued and supported with honour. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Over to the leader. Any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just start off with commending Councillor Taylor, whose work he's done over the past few months has been absolutely outstanding, and I'm quite happy to support you in any way I can moving forward. Some of the work has been tireless. My phone call log will say something to that. So thank you, Dave Taylor. You're excellent ambassador for veterans, but for the council, and thank you for that. I would like to start, I would like to carry on that from the latest news from British Steel, where the future of the company is very, very uncertain. The owners, the Chinese owners, have rejected an offer from the government. Previous governments also that have all been trying to negotiate for the future of steelmaking, which would secure the modernisation. The government made a very generous offer, I'm told, in terms of securing British steelmaking for future generations. We may have our differences in this chamber, but I believe we all want to see a prosperous future for British Steel in our borough. Steelmaking is not just an industry, it's part of who we are as an area, and we want to see this continue for future generations. As a council, we will continue to do everything possible to influence all sides in this negotiation to protect our steel industry and people who work in it. I'll be requesting more action from the government and British Steel to resolve this uncertainty and invest in steel in our borough. And that for me is about British backing. I'll be a voice for renationalisation. Whether that materialises, I don't know. But our reliance on foreign powers such as the Chinese, for me, is not the longevity. We need to be looking in-house and how we secure British steelmaking for the future. I think we all agree that councils should do whatever we can to reduce child poverty. Our council has been successful in a project which automatically enrolled children who are eligible for free school meals, rather than the onus on being parents to apply for them. can sometimes be, you know, some parents don't like helping for any support that's there out of pride. The project meant 372 additional children in our borough received free school meals. This was made a real difference to those children, and I'm pleased to say that this initiative will continue for years to come. Our frontline staff have been given streets a deep clean as part of the Great British Spring Clean-up. They have been sweeping roads, footpaths and alleyways and removing fly tipping, dog fouling, weeds and all the other bits that us councillors regularly get called about. I'd like to thank them for the ongoing efforts to improve our borough. I would like to pay my own tribute to the heroes who worked tirelessly for their and received their recognition awards from the Mayor at the Community Achievement Awards. Thank you to all the councillors that nominated good people in your areas. The 29 individuals and group made a real difference where they live and selflessly give up their time and expertise to help others. The separate ceremony highlighted inspiring women in Redcar and Cleveland. I'd like to thank Councillor Corley along with other people for the years. You're not Councillor Corley. Councillor Corley for the years of hard work that you've put in, and long may it continue. The words have been they've been running for over 10 years now. The standard event was hugely impressive. My congratulations goes to the winners and all those who were nominated. We had a world first in our borough with graphene was added to asphalt to lay onto public roads. Well done, Carl. That will help the claim of we were the best British roads in the country, as you said a few meetings ago. In the future, doing this could mean roads have a longer lifespan, reducing rutting, cracking and increasing resistance to potholes. It would be great to think that we were at the forefront for something which improves.
Karen, it's not a point of order. No, carry on.
Let him have it. He said it now.
Use the hammer.
You've got a new hammer. Use it. Right, where was I? Yeah, so, yeah. Finally, I would like to pay tribute to our Managing Director, John, who sadly couldn't be with us today. He's put many years of commitment into his role, 6 years, and he's been with us a lot longer than that. Months after being appointed, the council was hit by a cyber attack, and the following month, the company went into lockdown due to the COVID pandemic. So we can all appreciate it's not been the easiest of chairmanships for him. He steered the council through those two emergencies and continue to make a positive difference in the job. John has given years of dedicated service to our council, and I will miss his guidance and good humour. That was my good humour, sorry. I'm only joking, John. He will still be with us for some time, and I would like to take this opportunity to wish them all the very best for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more announcements from cabinet members? No, Councillor Hunt, you've got your light on, but we don't bring anyone in to speak about when there's the leaders. It's just leaders' comments, so I'm going to have to move on. You should have let us know before, and then so we know. You've been there before, Councillor Hunt. Go on, 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I should have stood up. What it is that I went to the Inspiring Women's Awards, and it was fabulous, and thank you for all of that. But at the same awards, our local radio station, Zetland FM, was awarded from the King, the King's Award for Communities, which is equal to the MBE. So I would just like to think that a local radio station of Redcar and Cleveland who serves us well, it would just be nice to give them a little thanks to Jeremy Garland, who runs the station, and Zetland FM for getting that award. I just think it. Plus, at the Inspiring Women's Awards, Julie Donaldson, who died, God bless her, is an award for the Inspiring Women, and Radio Zetland presented that award to them. So I just thought it was important that a local radio station, and many of the councillors have been on that radio station and been interviewed and still are, so it's a platform for ourselves. So I would just like to thank Zetland FM, plus being part of it as well.
Thanks, Councillor Hunt. if you remember, we did thank him in the chamber as well when you brought it to my attention when they got it many months ago, and we thanked them then. But yeah, I was at the Inspiring Women event along with yourself, and it was a fantastic event. Yeah. So we got no more announcements from the cabinet members. So we got no public questions. So we'll move on to the report from the member for Resources, Councillor Massey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, it's me again. So obviously you've heard a lot from my portfolio area in February when we passed the budget. Those who were at Cabinet or read the Cabinet papers in March have also seen some of our recent updates in resources, including the Q3 financial report and also the corporate plan annual report. But I'm just going to touch on some of the strategies that sit within the resources portfolio itself. For anyone who's read the corporate plan annual report or any of the refresh of the corporate plan, you will see that there are 20 new strategies which sit below the corporate plan at Redcar and Cleveland, of which around 5, there are some that cross multiple directorates, sit within resources itself. One thing I think is going to be really key as we roll out the corporate plan over the next couple of years is to make sure that we're turning our focus after we've made decisions on monitoring those decisions, and this is where scrutiny I think has a really key role to play. So anyone who was at the last resources scrutiny will have seen some really excellent reporting and deep diving that was done into one of the strategies which I'll talk about today, which is the digital strategy. So rather than it just being a piece of paper that gets locked in a filing cabinet for 3 years and then we return to it and refresh it, we hope that through these deep dive engagements at scrutiny committees we can make active policy decisions in the policy cycle. So Mike Oyston came along, spoke a lot about the digital strategy and put the question to members, which I thought was really good. Would you feel comfortable advising a resident in your communities how to use our digital services? And I think Mike got a mixed response back, and that mixed response is what enables us then to use the digital strategy and transform our digital offer into something hopefully that is better for our communities and much easier to access. The main strategy that I'm going to speak about, though, obviously is going to be the finance strategy. That is one, and if you've looked at the wheel that is in the cabinet report, in the resources report, the wheel that's been put together from our team, and Michael Lythe in particular I pay tribute for the wheel, but also a lot of this strategy work. It says that the finance strategy underpins everything that we as a council do. We've made difficult decisions in passing the budget 2 months ago, but we have to hold that budget to account and make sure that the £8.8 million we said we needed to save is delivered, either through exact means, what we said is what we do, or because we know it's a big budget, things change, there are global events, etc., etc. We have to still find that 8.8 million from somewhere, even if it's not every I dotted and T crossed that we set out at the first instance. The other thing to say about the finance strategy is if we look in the last financial year, which we've just had the Q3 report from, we're not quite into the next one yet, but the 24-25 financial year, you'll notice that there was a huge overspend that was there at Q1, which was 13.2 million, through some really good work across directorates, but also across members. We've reduced that deficit from 13.2 down to 6 million, just over 6 million, I think it's 6.6 million. So that shows that we've halved that deficit, but that is still money that needs to be found, that is still money that needs to be accounted for, and so we have to ensure that we continue to strive to hit that 8.8 million, which I talked about, that's in the 25-26 budget. A couple of things that are mentioned in terms of metrics, in terms of the financial strategy, are ensuring that we collect the council tax that we said we're going to collect and collect the business rates that we hope to be able to collect. So this is specifically for the next financial year and the previous one. But in the previous financial year, we are at the Q3 report on track. We are at exactly the same place we were last year in terms of council tax and business rates. One thing to draw members' attention to, which the Resources Committee will have heard me say previously, is that within fees and charges, one of the other core building blocks of our budget, you will notice that our fee and charge level, so as a cumulative level, is one of the lowest in our region, one of the lowest in the northeast. And this is why we've made some decisions, tough decisions, that were helped by the Task and Finish group to try and raise some of those fees and charges appropriately where possible to meet our neighbours' benchmarks, but also to ensure that the council is on a firm financial footing moving forward. Because, as you will have heard me say, and I'm sure many people say, we are not alone in these plights. If you've never heard some of this information before, I would hope that you have, but if you haven't, you will be fully aware that this is not a unique situation for Redcar and Cleveland to be in, with overspends, with projected cuts, etc. The national position from the Local Government Association is that councils in this country are effectively underfunded by £1.9 billion into the next financial year and a further £4 billion into the financial year after that. So that's nearly £6 billion of underfunding in local government. I will say that the current government has made some positive overtures in our direction, deprived areas. We received 2.2 million more in the settlement the last financial year, the one we're just about to leave, 24-25, than we were expecting. That's good, but you've already heard me say that we have millions more of challenges in that financial year with an overspend of over £6 million. We hope that further changes to local government funding will assist us as Redcar and Cleveland and authorities like us, but it's likely not to come until 26-27, which means we still have to take the decisions that we made in the budget in the next financial year. I've already referenced the digital strategy, and I think it's a key thing as we know that more of our residents and more of us and more of our businesses want to use online quick resources, but also on the other side that we're a public authority that has to have a face-to-face contact for those who want it, or a telephone contact for those who want it. So we are starting to dip our toe in some waters, things like artificial intelligence, AI. The council is using some of those items at the moment, but largely for minute taking and back office functions. We don't want to see AI directly replace staff in those instances, but if it can assist staff so staff can get on with a day job, I think that's a really good thing. We know that we have multiple contacts to our online centres, so can we streamline that? Can we get people to self-serve online? One interesting fact that I found in the previous quarter's report that was for the corporate plan is that over the last 4 years there have been 52,000 contacts from our residents that have been registered on our customer portal, but there have been 132,000 contacts registered by staff. Can we get those 132,000 where possible to self-serve? There'll always be some who won't be able to self-serve, but just as if you walk into a bank now, I did this on Saturday, there are no staff, there are machines, but there is one member of staff to help you if you can't use the machine. The council needs to start thinking a little like a business, but still remember that it is a council. There's a workforce development strategy and resources. Huge challenge here is that we effectively have about a third less staff than we had in 2015. In 10 years, we've lost 1,100 members of staff. We currently have about 2,200, but yet the council has not stopped realistically anything that it's done over those last 10 years, so we're having to do far more with less. We also have an ageing workforce. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but for forward planning it can be. So now we have 31% of our workforce over the age of 55. 10 years ago it was only 20% over the age of 55. So we have to think about continuity and change and forward planning. Hence we have a new recruitment and retention group that works within resources but across portfolios. We also have Rising Star Awards, apprenticeships, etc., etc. All of those things together have seen our retention rate increase by 5% this year. So it's gone up to 85% of the staff that we've retained versus 80% that we had in the year previous. There is a commercial strategy as well that's in the resources portfolio. Effectively, this tries to implement some of what was in the recent Procurement Act to simplify procurement. We have a new online portal called Open in collaboration with the other North East local authorities, and there are 10,000 suppliers registered on that now, which is positive, and nearly 1,000 of those within the Tees Valley. It's important to note with procurement that effectively we have 3 different tranches of this. If we're procuring, an officer is procuring something below £10,000, the officer has to get 3 quotes. If it's something between £10,000 up to £999,000, the officer has to get 3 bids. They can be local, but if they can't be sourced locally, it would go on NEPO. Anything over £1 million has to go to a formal tender, which is open effectively to the wider community across the country. Our Redcar and Cleveland procurement team have supported directly a number of North East suppliers in this space to get them registered and active on Open. So we've had 39 events with suppliers, but we've also sent 2,500 emails to local suppliers to try and get them up to speed on this new portal. Finally, the other areas of the portfolio, which sometimes are neglected but are yet still important. There's no specific strategy for these, but they're still very important. Our elections team does fantastic work. You'll know that we've had a PCC election in the last year, we've had a parliamentary election, we've also had a by-election on the council, as well as parish council elections. All of those, I think, have gone off without a hitch, which has been pretty good. We have 96% of our residents who are eligible in terms of adulthood registered to vote. Don't be alarmed by the 4%. Not all of the 4% are eligible because they might not be, for instance, British citizens or might not have the mental capacity to be able to vote and don't choose to. But there are still, we think, 1,600 people out there who do have the right to vote, who we cannot reach despite trying many times. We knock on those doors regularly, the team, not me personally. The team knock on those doors, but we continue to try in that area. Democratic Services, I couldn't say something about resources without mentioning them. Who knew we had 124 committees last year, and Democratic Services have made sure that all of those committees have gone off again without a hitch, so my thanks to staff there. Members' inquiries is a wonderful tool for us as members, but it's created a beast in resources. There's been 8,100 contacts in the last year. That is a business support team that is very small. It's effectively one person. It's one job, but it's shared across multiple people. That is a lot. We hopefully can use some technology and some digital to try and streamline that, because that is a lot for one or two members of staff to have to deal with. Freedom of information requests are very similar. We've had over 1,000 of those, 94% we sent back on time, which is good. Some are very, very complicated. We've let the government know about this, that this is taking an inordinate amount of staff time. And I thought I'd end on a happy note. We've had 965 marriages and civil partnerships in the last year, so thanks to the registration team. Very final thing I'll say is a huge thanks to all the staff. That goes across all the directors and assistant directors. I've already name-dropped Michael Ladd. He helped a great deal with the report and the corporate plan. It's hugely appreciated. But across the team, from Phil to Steve to John, even the people below that at AD level. Andrew Nixon sent me an email at 2 a.m. yesterday evening, which he did not need to, I told him, but it was very much appreciated. So thanks to the entire resources team. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. Open for debate. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Massey, for a very detailed, clear report, very helpful. Well, there's just perhaps one tiny bit that's not so clear to me, and it's the very top of page 16, where you talk about the overspend in children's services of 13 odd million, which has been reduced to 6.6 overall. Well, I think I know what you mean. But in fact, the children's budget has increased between the two quarters, or at least the overspend has increased by yet another $500,000. How do you think that we are ever going to get the children's services budget under control? Thank you.
Councillor Massey.
Thank you. Sorry, I know it's a difficult job to go between about 59 of us. So, no, it's a really good point. So I've said the overall council budget has reduced its overspend from 13.2 to roughly 6.6, but that's not reduced the overspend directly in children's services. I mean, the very rough math that I've said in the past is, if you think 2-3 years ago, each one of our looked after children in our care, each one of our children in our care was costing the council on average £250,000. Now, on average, those children are costing, morally correctly, no criticism, £350,000. So that huge increase has meant it's been very difficult within children's services to balance the books. This is an entirely national issue. I've talked about the LGA and figures, etc. But anyone who reads The Guardian, spoiler, I do, in The Guardian this week there was an article in The Guardian that was saying that we are not one of the local authorities, that there were 20 local authorities who thought they would go bankrupt this year due to the cost of social care. And we were not one. I did ask the question. We were not one of the ones who said we were going to, but it speaks to the challenges that every council has in this area. On your broader question about what do we do about this, we're trying through some of the investments. So I said in the budget last time, effectively we are trying to make £70 million of investments with one hand, but we're also trying to cut 8.8 million out of the budget next year at the same time. The 70 million's over 5 years, but the 8.8 million's next year. So part of our investment is to try and invest to save in children's services where we can. Can we open our own children's homes? Can we buy facilities so we're not renting them? Can we train up through academies our next generation of social workers? If we can kind of take back control effectively of parts of that market, we're less at the whims of that market in the future when costs go up from £250,000 to £300,000. But it's a very fair point that the budget positions got better in the whole, in the round, but in children's services it's still very challenging. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Councillor Selvin, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Massey, for the report. Just one question. Point 1.4 on page 14. The Survive, Strive and Thrive strategy. Just where are we now? Are we year one? Are we year two? Because obviously I've heard this bandied about for the last year or so. And my fear is I might still be hearing about this strategy in 2 or 3 years. So I'd just like to know where we are on this strategy. That's all.
Councillor Massey.
So the general hope, Councillor Selvin, is that this finance strategy runs from 24 to 27. So being in 25, we are hopefully still in the survive phase, but we're hopefully about to strive. I know some people hate this language, so apologies for that, but it speaks to some of the opportunities the council has in the future, but also speaks to the fact that we're still in the survive phase, speaks to the £8.8 million of savings that are required, the council tax rises that have been decided upon by the council, etc., etc. But there is a hope that as we said, in future years, Tees Works eventually starts to pay significant business rates to the local authority. We won't see that all at once, but we hopefully will start to see that in a bit of the strive phase, and then hopefully we'll be able to thrive when all of those, or most of those businesses, are up and running, paying business rates to the local authorities, which are locally retained, and then hopefully this council's in a much firmer financial footing. But I would say that effectively we have a full year left of surviving before we get to that point. There are still risks. We're talking about big businesses delivered on time to the same specifications as we thought. It's why we talked about cautious scenarios and setting the budget on a cautious level, because we know that there are whims and magnitudes that are bigger than us that could change that. But there genuinely is an opportunity, and I would say, we are Redcar and Cleveland, it's an opportunity that not everybody has. I've said that there's this huge, nearly £6 billion underfunding of local government in the next 2 years, but we have the chance to get funding in that other people don't. So hopefully, we are still surviving, Paul, but hopefully we will hit the next two at some point. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Massey, for your report. You refer to on page 16 that the prime reason for the department's underspend is because we have not actually appointed members of staff. That's regrettable, is it not? That we feel it's important to have an establishment and yet we do not actually procure them. That, of course, could be said across the board, and there are many departments which are understaffed because of decision not to appoint. So we're compromised in delivering services to our residents. You also make reference to the fact that the overspend will, and I quote, render the council's already depleted reserves to be almost fully utilised. And obviously that is a great concern. So I am hopeful that we will be getting updates that are more than quarterly throughout the course of the year, so that members can be fully advised as to where we are financially. You make reference to digital strategy, and we all welcome that. You also compliment the members' inquiry system, which we endorse. However, the members' inquiry system is a 5-day-a-week service. Councillors, elected members, operate over a 7-day period. So in the digital appraisal and the capacity that it might provide, can we look as a priority to see how members can be served over a 7-day period in terms of support and reporting better than the current system allows currently? I am extremely disappointed to note that despite all the requests that have been made over recent years by members, not least myself, about the absolute importance of annual appraisals, and while we despaired at the aspiration not to have 100% appraisal because of frictional difficulties, we find that our performance is only 78%. That is not encouraging. So I do hope from today we leave the chamber with all directors of all departments intent on achieving the annual target without delay. And finally, Councillor, I'd just like to remind us, and you have been involved in this, I know, and thank you for that support that you gave at the time, to making contact with the Treasury in terms of evaluating the right of local authorities to engage in consulting and encouraging review of statutory services on an annual basis. We did actually reach out, personally involved in that, and I'm grateful I had the opportunity to the Treasury to set up a platform of engagement. I do hope that that is being continued, because having opened that door, it's really important that we keep it open and do everything that we can to encourage the review of statutory services to allow this authority, among others, to benefit from reasonable and annual reviews.
Thank you. Councillor Massey.
Hello, thank you. It's good job I've got a pen. Right, thank you, Councillor Thompson. As always, Councillor Thompson is somebody who reads the full reports, and I admire you for spotting the appraisal thing. I did predict that you would, but it's a very good question, Councillor Thompson, to raise. I think the two things I would say, and it's not a deflect from the issue, is that so the appraisal rate roughly across the whole authority is 78%. But we've had some member oversight of this in more recent months, which has increased that by about 4 to 5% in the last few months. But 78%, as you've said, Councillor Thompson, is still too low. Within the resources area, I am happy to say that it's higher. It's nearly 98% within resources. But I do think there needs to be a push to try and get as many people appraised as possible, particularly for goal setting, career pathways, etc. We've talked about retention. It's a key tool for retention. So I think kind of one thing that I'd like to take away is that I wouldn't say it's easier necessarily in resources just because of this, but resources, if we think about it, is an office-based function. The majority of the resources staff work in an office behind a desk, and so therefore it is easier for their manager to potentially arrange and pull them for an appraisal. For some of our services that are more out there in the communities, in the streets, that's occasionally where we see the rates dip, but that should not excuse it. I agree completely. So it's definitely something we need to keep an eye on. In terms of the reserve level, you rightly recognise that within the report it says that our reserve levels are diminishing. That doesn't mean they're nothing. So at Q3 our reserves were at 22 million, but the risk is that if the 6.6 million overspend at Q3 is materialised, it takes away nearly all of our 7 million reserves that we've got put aside for the medium-term financial strategy and plan. That is a risk because the other reserves are either directorate reserves or earmarked reserves for specific purposes like insurance, PFI, etc. So it is something we need to keep an eye on, and it's also something to hopefully guide members towards. We've already had the question from Councillor Salvin about these 3 phases. The middle phase is there because even though the council will have more money in, hopefully, the next 2 to 3 years, some of that money will need to go to address some of these concerns that we've got. In an ideal world, would we have more money in reserves? Absolutely yes, which is why we need to use the additional income to hopefully get the council back on the firmest footing we can before we start actually spending that money. We need to have a bit of a redress for the first 2 years, that middle 3 to 5 period, before we get into the thrive phase. The position on the Treasury, I think that is a legitimate concern that we've had. We've previously, I know through yourself, Councillor Thompson, and Councillor Nightingale through the scrutiny chair, made representation there. Happy to continue those conversations and indeed to make further representations. There's a question about members' inquiry. I think this is something that hopefully we can start to put out as a digital service maybe in the future. Not everything is going to be able to be digitally logged, but we had the conversation at Resources a few weeks ago where a few councillors immediately said, oh, have you ever used, to Mike Oyston this is, have you ever used, they have like Check My Street and report things online. They're not council services, they're third-party services. We need a council services like Fix My Street. If we have that, we can then send things to hopefully staff who do, let's say you've got a concern, Councillor Thompson, which occasionally I'm sure you do, that is on the foreshore in Saltburn, which is pretty much a 7-day, nearly 24-hour leisure activity area. There will be members of staff who litter pick there, collect rubbish there during the weekend, so that, if it's digital and it works, should be able to get your inquiry to those, but we're still a little away from that. We still have manual entry and a large Excel spreadsheet at the moment, but it should get better. I think I covered everything. If not, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Just before I bring Councillor Martin in, Councillor Kay be the final speaker. Right, so Councillor Martin, please.
I've just got a couple of questions really, mainly about procurement. Obviously, you know I've been banging on this now for about a year. I think it's more important that we keep money in Redcar and Cleveland. It's great that the council are now going forward and trying to find more local contractors. Obviously, you said there's a link. Could this link be sent to all councillors so we could share this link on our socials so we can get this information out so local contractors can actually contact us more? Also, when it comes to the jobs under £10,000, obviously we do know we need 3 quotes now. I'm just wondering what other scrutiny measures are in place to make sure these quotes are correct, and what percentage of the jobs that the council takes every year actually falls under 10,000?
Thank you. Councillor Massey, please.
Yeah, I think, thank you for the questions, Councillor Martin. In terms of procurement, we could definitely continue our work, I think, in this area to promote the new system, the new open system, and also to promote the fact that we put training on offer for businesses who want to get registered to that. I think the MD, if not somebody who works for him, has previously sent information to all groups to say that if you would like, as a political group, potentially to have a broader conversation about procurement, we'd be happy to facilitate that, because then it helps you effectively talk to those suppliers if you know them, talk to residents who might have businesses to try and get them registered. On the general question as well, there's also NEPO supplier training for kind of broader quotes, etc. We can also send links to those things, I think no problem at all. The question about how many things are under £10,000, we do I'm sure we publish this, but I will get more information about a percentage. I don't have a percentage at hand.
Thank you. Councillor Davies, please.
Given the financial situation for this council, that everyone here in this chamber is fully aware of now, you know, we've had council tax increases because we can't maintain services. It's imperative, is it not, that we showcase to our residents that we use their taxes wisely. Therefore, do you believe that the leader's response to an incident at a local private business that resulted in major damage to its premises in Redcar was an appropriate use of our depleted resources? And will consistent consideration be given to businesses throughout Redcar and Cleveland, or will it depend on who has the leader's ear? Given the announcement from the MD to retire later this year, can you also tell us if we have begun a recruitment process, and if not, when will this begin? And do you foresee any issues recruiting a new MD given the financial situation and local government reorganisation looming large? Will the role of MD in Redcar and Cleveland be attractive enough to fill? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
My ear, it should have had all over it was a petrol bomb attack, and it was 2 lads from the council filling up the back of our van for 45 minutes, Wayne. An unprecedented attack like that should have all of our ears, not just mine. And I was thankfully widely supported by members across the chamber for taking that action.
Thank you. Councillor Massey, do you want to come and answer the second question?
Thank you. I think, yes, thank you for picking that up, Alec, because I had no idea what he was on about. So, on the, sorry Wayne, but I genuinely didn't know I had to ask Marion what you were referring to, because it's not something I'd seen. I tend to avoid social media. Okay, so on the MD question and local government, I think the general plan here is that the MD's retirement should cost the council no money. Effectively, the MD's retirement will be voluntary and early retirement. When we go to recruit, we would hope that at first instance, we would be able to hopefully offer that opportunity, which I believe has already taken place, to people at director level at the council. So expressions of interest will go out to our directors. Directors will be able to apply through that process. Like I said earlier on, in terms of our workforce retention, it is key, I think, that we train and retain and also give opportunities to staff. I can't predict what's going to happen there, but the idea would be that if we have members of staff who are interested at those levels, those members of staff would apply. There would be a members appointment panel, and I think indeed, if this happens, the members appointment panel would be at the end of this month, effectively. So I don't think there'll be any difficulty to attract somebody, because I do think that hopefully we get some excellent local candidates. If we don't, then we'll take it out to advert, go a bit more broad, etc. But it's a really good opportunity, I think, to lead a council. You'll notice if you look around the Tees Valley, I think pretty much every chief executive in the chief executive or MD in the Tees Valley is new, except Hartley Bulls. So they've managed to recruit in the last 2 years across Stockton, Darlington, and what's the other one? I can't remember. But they've managed to recruit on the others. Middlesbrough, there we go. They've managed to recruit, so I don't think we'd have problems, but we need to offer it to our staff first, because I think we need to have that clear pathway for progression and promotion.
Thank you. Councillor Evans, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Massey, for your report. It's a really brief point, more than a question. It's just a note about the volunteer strategy that you've brought that up. I don't think for 1 minute we can overestimate how important the volunteer strategy is, how important, and we can't underestimate how important our volunteers are in the community. We have so many wonderful people who volunteer their time for free to do so many different things, and I just really want to give a thanks to the volunteers, and I hope that my colleagues in the chamber will join me in thanking the volunteers for the work that they do and how important they are, and that we, you know, just keep it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Massey, please.
Yes, I don't think I could say it better myself, but I echo your comments completely in terms of the volunteers that we have. There's been some good work with members on kind of a volunteer steering group, with the volunteering microsite that's since been set up. And indeed, I think yourself, Mr. Mayor, you held an award session, kind of a Community Achievement Awards, which recognised a number of our volunteers, including some of my own ward, which was very well received, and is a bit of that giving back for the work that people do to keep our communities clean, tidy, safe, give kids things to do, etc., etc., etc.
Thank you. Final speaker, Councillor Kay, please.
Councillor Massey, I was going to congratulate you on a perfect report, and then you blew it, forgetting about Middlesbrough. You shouldn't forget about Middlesbrough, because in the next few years they could swallow us up. And I just hope you can knock some sense into your government to leave us as we are. We don't want to be in another Cleveland County plus Darlington, probably. In East Cleveland, we'll be lost totally and neglected even more, and Stanhope Road will never get done. But to move on to member inquiries, I'm glad I've got the opportunity to say in public what a brilliant service this is. And the staff who operate it give you almost an instant return. It's so, not only with regard to council services, but to other public and private services as well. It's really the best aid that councillors have ever had. So what I'm saying is, please don't, it works very well at the moment, please don't tamper with it too much. The only thing I would change, and I've had it turned down once, I don't like the words member enquiries. I think it should be members or member issues, because that's what I think we all use it for. When you perhaps forward it to a constituent, they're going to look at that member inquiry. What on earth does this mean? We're not inquiring, we're demanding. So it should be member issues, not member inquiries. But having said that, just don't tamper with it too much. It works brilliantly as it is at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Massey, please.
Yes, no, I thank Councillor Kay for his questions, and indeed for giving me the opportunity to correct my one faux pas in this particular chamber today. So I think you raise a fair point about Middlesbrough. Obviously, it's our, largely speaking, closest near neighbour, certainly if we go kind of that way, for want of a better expression. But if you look at the government's trajectory in terms of local government reorganisation, they're talking about areas that are about 500,000 large. So the chances of Middlesbrough swallowing us up are quite slim, because even Redcar and Cleveland and Middlesbrough together adds up to about 270,000 people. It's still way too small for what the government's talking about. The Tees Valley itself is arguably too big, because it's 670,000 people, I think. So there are questions to be asked, but we are not in phase one of that conversation. Phase one of that conversation is far more to do with kind of counties and districts than it is to do with unitaries such as ourselves. But I agree with yourself, Councillor Kay. We've talked, we've had questions from Councillor Selvin about these opportunities that we hopefully will get in a couple of years. The risk is, if we did end up being swallowed up, merging, etc., we halve our benefits. Because at the moment, we are potentially the envy of some of our neighbours, because we have this opportunity on our doorstep. Merging potentially dilutes that impact. So for as long as we can, I would like us to stay as we are, but equally forces can move that are much greater than us. I thought the members' inquiries comments were very fair. It is indeed an excellent service. I think anything that we can do to save staff time, because that is a lot of time, is a good thing, but as long as it doesn't diminish the service, as you said, Councillor Kay, I agree completely. Thanks.
Thank you. I think the end of that is Councillor Kay and Councillor Massey agree with each other, which is fantastic. You know what I mean? Long may it continue. Good, long may it continue. Right, move on to item number 9, report from the Leader of the Council, please. Leader of the Council.
This is just an urgency provision paper, Mr Mayor. I'll take it as read and move the recommendation of 5.1.
Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you. Ooh, any debate on that? No? Sorry, Councillor Thompson, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We are advised on page 28 that the reason, or the apparent reason for having to come to Chamber today is because of an error in the procurement process. So we're talking here about expenditure of well over £1 million. So are we to be given to understand that the error in processing is an absolute one-off, which would be helpful, but also can we have an explanation as to why an error for such magnitude occurred in the first place?
2 seconds, Alex. It's a debate, so I'll bring it at the end to answer the questions, yeah? Councillor King, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's also in the papers, scrutiny consultation, Councillor Karen King, Chair of the Children, Families and Scrutiny, and I can't actually remember being consulted on it. I could be wrong. Obviously, there's a lot going on with 2 chairs in Children's and Family. I don't think it should be noted that I was actually consulted on this unless it was. So I'm happy to take that back if clarification is sought from officers later. I know they're very busy today with an inspection, but I'd like it clarified, was I actually consulted on it, because it's not to my knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. No further debate. Councillor Brown, please.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor King. I'll take that up with Councillor Suthers regarding the Norton, and Councillor Thompson's broader point. You make an important point. Can I promise you that they'll never make an error again? I can't, because I can't say in the future, but what I will do is make sure there's a full report circulated to members explaining why the oversight was made. Okay.
Thank you. With the guarantees given by Councillor Brown, are we all okay with that? All right, agreed, yeah? Thank you, yeah? Is that okay, Steve, yeah? Thank you. Right, move on to Managing Director. I think, Steve, you're taking this one on here?
Yep, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is just one of those technical reports regarding proportionality. In this case, it's due to Councillor Evans's move from the group. The calculations will have been circulated, so hopefully aren't contentious. So if there was a proposer and a seconder, and that could be approved, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, we've got a seconder, please. Yeah, thank you. Is any debate on that? No, thank you. Move on then. We move on to motions. Motion 1, Councillor Thompson to move, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Prior to proposing the motion, Mr Mayor, I should wish to declare an interest. I volunteered as an elected member, invited as all members were, to serve on a working group. At the first formal meeting, I was elected to chair the working group from those then in attendance across party. I shall take the motion as read, Mr Mayor. So the rationale for my proposing the motion on budget, task and finish working groups is as follows. When was the working group concept established? Well, that was at an all-member conference on the 16th of July 2024. What was the raison d'etre? It was responding to the Council's budget challenge and with a requirement to analyse and put forward solutions on a range of options to generate savings. How was the group established and who originated it? Our managing director, unfortunately not with us today, in conjunction with the portfolio holder of resources representing the Cabinet. Who were the participants? All members of all political persuasions. It was an all-member collaborative work. And what was the reality of the existence of the working group? Out of 59 elected members, insufficient were committed to supporting the project. So the aspiration to prepare 4 areas of focus under separate working groups was not realized through this, with less than anticipated members' participation level. The initial proposed 4 groups were combined into one working group, and those active members who had found the time and commitment devoted their endeavours to addressing the original remit. So in terms of participation, we had some 40 members across parties participating in the working group meetings. We had 2 full member conferences which gained greater member attendance. So the subject matters Mr. Mayor covered included a significant range of council activity, but the following is not entirely a comprehensive summary, but contains some of the subject matters explored. And they were Children's and Families Budget, Intervention and Transformation Programme, Assets, Disposal and Return on Investment, Best Returns from Enforcement, including charges, including car parking, Waste Management with the ramifications for domestic and commercial delivery and costings, Recovery of on-costs incurred in delivering council services, Fees and charges to aim to recover overheads. This included statutory fees, which we have traditionally been set by central government. And in an attempt to unlock this potential, contact was made with the treasuries. I've made comment earlier today, Mr. Mayor, representatives of the group met with representatives of the treasury to explore ways forward. This has prepared the ground for continuing dialogue. Digital strategy and how efficiencies could be secured in delivering services. In all of these discussions, it was made clear that the working group had no plenary powers and would be focused on exploration of operations and making recommendations for further work. This further work was to be channeled through the traditional scrutiny and improvement work, and not to circumvent or to usurp that process. The work undertaken by working group members was challenging, and recognition of this commitment and endeavour has already been well documented. Cabinet members' report today endorses that. Highlighted from time to time and reiterated by many, including the Cabinet member holder for resources. All this work, of course, was underpinned by officer commitment, and we thank them for that, and democratic service support. We thank them for that, for which working group members have recognised, valued, and appreciated. It is, therefore, Mr. Mayor, with some dismay that there have been some declarations made in public places that have sought to attribute decision-making to the group which was never, in practice, undertaken. Such statements have misled elected members and members of the public in their expression. This motion, Mr. Mayor, seeks to address these misconceptions by requesting that all due processes of decision-making within the Council are made clear. Transparency is a vital element in dissemination of information, but more fundamentally, the perceived transfer of decision-making from established protocols to an ephemeral entity is not at all helpful in managing public understanding, and does potentially challenge the fundamental principles of member conduct and the objectivity brought to discussions by enlightened, proactive, and conscientious members, giving of their time in public service. Therefore, in conclusion, Mr. Mayor, it is requested that members in this chamber do support the motion and the sentiments contained within it and set out to improve transparency and communication both within and out with this organisation, adhering at all times to the best principles of member conduct.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Do we have a seconder, please?
Right to speak, please. And I should possibly declare an interest as well because I was Vice Chair of the Budget Task and Finish Group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Open up for debate. Councillor Brown, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll declare an interest too, because the very task and finish group we were discussing now was something I asked the council to create in the spirit of working together for us all to come up with budget proposals that were best for our residents and stopped us from going to special measures or bankrupt. I do declare an interest in that, and in the spirit of continuing to work together, we support this motion as a group. I do appreciate when he alluded to some of the messaging, possibly myself as well, when I've talked about it being proposals from that task and finish group. Again, my biggest motivation was about showing the public about working together, because I know the feedback I get many times is people are fed up of the factional bit playing tit for tat we do in this chamber. I do appreciate in one or two wards it's been misconstrued as politicking, and for that I sort of do apologise. So in the spirit of working together, my group will support this motion, and yeah, we'll support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to support this motion, but I can't put a declaration of interest in, because sadly I was unable to make any of the meetings, and one of them I really would have liked to. I wondered if going forward it's possible to do a Google poll for the people with expertise in particular fields to see when they'd be available, because there's a lot of us in this chamber work full-time, self-employed, and all of the meetings were held at times when I had other work on. So it's a shame that, you know, there was only 14 out of 59, but it's impossible for me to, you know, continue running a business or work full time when the meetings are held at a time when I haven't been able to make any of them. Just something for consideration for the future, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt, please.
I tried to sit on as many of the task and finishes as there was possible. I went to the conferences. I tried to give an honest and genuine opinion to help. And then, and there's not as many words as Councillor Thompson, I can just speak from the heart. I was quite insulted to be sort of accused of making a decision, especially about the car parking in Loftus, and sort of getting the blame for it. And the car park in Loftus, we're going to put the charges, and for over 20 odd years I've sat on Loftus Town Council and dealt with that car park and asked for things. We have, in that small car park, which services the doctors, we have 8 to 10 electric bays, which I think maybe 2 I've ever seen being used. We have no disabled bays, which is, you know, place deserving having all them electric. You know, and why in 100 years would I suggest paying for parking in there when we've spent years trying to get more parking, because it's one of the most deprived places of parking. So I will be supporting the motion, obviously, but I did feel very upset that it had been turned round on our committee. And I will still sit on task and finishes and try to help the council, but I would, I think, like the appreciation of the people, the few that did sit on the same people that did sit on these task and finishes, maybe be appreciated for their inputs instead of sort of being blamed for it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Caird, to speak, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I accept that we've had a apology just now. However, there are certain things which I would like to say. In the motion, Councillor Thompson refers to the Nolan principles on which public service is predicated, and no one in this room would argue with that. However, we must walk the talk. And today I would like to refer to 4 of those principles in particular: integrity, accountability, honesty, and leadership. The motion mentions the car parking charges that Councillor Hunt has talked about already that were attributed to the Budget Task and Finish group. Now, additionally, there was a public statement following the budget meeting that said the Conservative leader, bizarrely, voted against the budget even though she had been part of the majority of the proposals through the Task and Finish group. Quite remarkable, really. The Task and Finish group had no executive powers, we've established that. A fact that was clear to most of us from the start. However, we should be concerned at what appeared to be a significant degree of confusion about how decisions are made in this council. In order for there to be integrity, accountability, and honesty, we should not be confused between executive and non-executive groups. I can see you're smiling, but it is a serious point. It's a fundamental thing to get right. If the leadership is muddled about how decisions are made in this organisation, if the leadership is muddled about where the executive power lies, if the leadership is muddled about who is making the decisions, then we can't possibly expect our residents to have confidence in the leadership of this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pugh, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hunt and Councillor Kerr, for what you've had to say on this. I think you've outlined my feelings quite well, and no, thank you for that. I don't want to repeat what we've said, so I was just going to take the opportunity actually to thank the administration for, this is in reference of course, this motion partly to the parking charges, so just wanted to take the opportunity to thank the administration for not implementing parking charges at Flats Lane and elsewhere in Loftus where it wasn't suitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, to sum up please, if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I thank those who've contributed to the discussion and debate this afternoon. So I reiterate the sentiment contained in the motion, and we've heard some members clearly expressing concern about the inability for clarity in decision making. And that is the purpose of the motion, to try to do better in the future in any decisions that are made within this chamber and on behalf of the elected members, so that there is no misunderstanding and responsibility for decision making is clearly understood. So I'd like to thank Councillor Brown for also contributing to the debate and acknowledging his support of the principles that are contained therein. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I would hope that the motion will be supported when you put it to the vote, and that the outcome will see a clear definition promulgated by our communications team and our executive as to how we proceed in the future with maintaining the principles that members are encouraged to adopt.
Thank you. Put motion 1 to the vote. All those in favour, please show. I think that's carried. Thank you. Move on to motion 2. Councillor Leroy to propose. Councillor Leroy.
Thank you. I'll start with a summary of what the Grangetown incinerator is. So it's a 450,000 tonne capacity incinerator, which will border the, if you think about where the roundabout is, as you're going into Grangetown, it's just going to be sat off there on the right hand side. There's already an existing facility on the left hand side as you're going across that roundabout. Just further up there's a biomass facility as well, and then just on the other side of the river there's Haverton Hill. Just to reiterate, when we're talking about incineration here, we're not talking about one incinerator, but we're talking about a complex of incinerators. It's the highest intensity of incinerators anywhere in the world. Higher than China, for example. Now, in terms of the pollutants that come out of it, the UK level, and I've spoken about this previously, is 30 micrograms per metre cubed. But we've got to think about this in terms of 4 incinerators, all cumulating this effect, this cumulative effect of all. And I want to deal with a couple of issues here first. The first thing is that when we think about incineration, we think about incineration or landfill. And it's not incineration or landfill. Because the third option, of course, is recycling and reuse. Now, from next year, 2026, we'll be compelled to have food waste recycling. So what will happen over time is that the projection of the amount of residual waste that we'll have will not increase. It will go down. Now, we've been told all along that it will increase with population. It won't. Also, the responsible manufacturing schemes coming in and deposit schemes. So it will be a downward trend everywhere. I've already sent you all a couple of emails with regards to capacity. We were told from the outset that there won't be capacity in this area. Now, I don't support incineration, but let's say if you did, that green area is all of the incineration capacity that's available within an hour's drive of here. You know, fill your boots if you're an incinerator supporter. I now want to talk about the situation with regards to local incinerators, and in terms of absorbing the waste from the 7 authorities that are involved in this energy recovery facility. Essentially, most of their waste is already being burnt in incinerators that are local to us, of which there are 3. So if we think about Wilton 11, at the roundabout just on the left-hand side, run by Merseyside authorities, it doesn't have compensation from the government, it faces penalty charges. So what Merseyside does, by the way, I should mention, all of these facilities are run by private equity. So this means that the money that we put into them at the public purse is extracted out and goes to foreign lands, to America. And that would be the situation with the one that's going to be built here. What happens with Wilton is that they've got penalty charges. They must fill it. The Merseyside councils can't fill it. So now they're attracting waste from all over, including Mr. Mayor, Redcar and Cleveland, who've contributed to it. Do we want to put ourselves in the same position with regards to penalty charges? That facility there will run on till into the 2050s. The facility at Haverton Hill will run on till 2039. Not my opinion, but written in the legislation of the Environmental Act 2021-2024 amended. In there also is Allerton Incinerator, 59 minutes drive from here. They will be able to process as well 350,000 tonnes of rubbish. And they too have got penalty charges, just like Haverton Hill has. Now I want to move on to our particular predicament that we've got here. First of all, it's wrong to say that a contract has been signed. There is a tender, and I've gone through all of the documents with a lawyer, and we've picked out the clauses in there. There is a clause in there with regards to the tender process. Normally on a tender, at a public tender, it's open. What happened in this case was that 2 firms applied for planning permission. After they applied for planning permission, and then one loses, the winning bidder pays the losing bidder. But here's the catch. Hidden in the small print is, it's not the winning bidder that pays the losing bidder. We pay that. So what happens is that you are compelled to go in and start the incinerator, because then you can recuperate the gate fees, which will then pay in the small print to then pay the losing bidder. How perverse is that? The next thing to mention is that this is going to cost 2.8 billion overall. When this was first considered in 2020, there wasn't the carbon tax bill that was going to come in. It's actually a tariff. It goes up and down, but it's just going to go up because there's going to be more and more competition. This will come in from 2028 when this project starts. So when we hear about if we pull out of this now, it will cost us 800,000. That is 2 months carbon tax to our council alone. Now I want you to focus now on the bill for this. It's 300 million to build, and it is 2.1 billion to operate over 29 years, with the extension going to 40 years. But in terms of that 29 years and the 2.1 billion, when I looked at the other contracts, for example, for Viridor Operate, the same contractor, 1.3 billion is what they charge. Even if you apply interest to it, there is a missing amount in there of 500 to 700 million. So it's massively overpriced. There are onerous terms littered through for not being able to reach targets. It talks about us reaching a 310,000 target going on till into 2050, and then it will reach 450,000, which is impossible. It means we'll have to ship in waste from everywhere. So that's why there is a clause in the contract as well that allows that waste to be shipped in. Now, the biggest thing you can do in terms of climate change, of course, is vote against this incinerator. I've done it all. I've avoided flights, I've become a vegan, I ride a bike everywhere. It makes minimal difference in terms of knocking this incinerator on the head. The carbon output from this incinerator is larger than Redcar and Cleveland altogether. Indeed, it is greenwashing to suggest that this energy which will be produced from this site will somehow benefit the local population, because once again, in the small print, it doesn't. It goes to the contractor and the landowner. And I want to talk about the land now at Tees Works. The land hasn't been valued to us. We don't know what the value of the land is. We don't know what the option is. So just consider that, and then the dangers which will then come from that in terms of potentially other owners coming in and taking ownership of that, land flipping, renting to others, for example. We have no control over this. We are running the most expensive incinerator project which has ever been known to this island, and we are in a situation where we can't afford to run children and adult services appropriately. The alternative is that we don't build the incinerator, because the capacity locally exists now, and it will exist from 2026, even if we wanted to continue with existing incineration. And what this means, Mr. Mayor, is that we are costing the public purse 2.8 billion unnecessarily. Indeed, we could play the incinerator market, just like councils in Wales are doing, where they've got too many incinerators on their doorstep, and barter down the gate fee. I should mention as well that even though we're building this, we will be paying a gate fee, and the gate fee can increase year on year. So the motion is that we remove all political and financial support for the Tees Valley Energy Recovery Facility going forward. I forward the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Leroy. Do we have a seconder, please?
I'd like to second the motion and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Motion 2 up for debate. Councillor Brown, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tristan certainly put his heart and soul into this, and I've got to say, from one ward councillor to another one, what a principled argument you put forward, and I commend you for that. However, I do want to move a procedural motion, if possible, Mr. Mayor, not on the grounds of the spirit of the motion. It is what it is, the spirit of the motion. However, my own group, we discussed this on Monday night. Now, the reason why I want to move a procedural motion, it is not to stop the motion, it's to move it to the next full council meeting. And the reason being is because that the tender actually came in last week. Now, KPMG putting all the numbers together. I mean, it could be the case where the numbers just don't stack up and it's not economically viable to build the thing in the first place. However, every councillor in the chambers today must have all the relevant facts and information to be able to make a decision of this magnitude. I can't vote for or against this motion as it is. If the council decide not to carry the procedural motion, but I certainly can't vote on the substantive motion just on the fact that we don't know all the facts and all the information. Councillors have been bombarded over the last week. I came out and spoke to you guys. This is not voting against the motion. It's making sure that we've got all the facts, because we don't at the moment. The tender came in last week, and the facts and figures will come to us within the next 2 weeks. I even propose, Mr Mayor, if we do carry that, that all councillors should be given a briefing from both those against the incinerator and on the KPMG before that full council meeting for a balanced briefing. So I move on procedural motion, the fact that councillors can't discuss it with all the relevant facts, as the Constitution says, that we just move it to the next meeting. But it does give you guys another opportunity to show how strongly you feel about this outside the chambers again. So I would move it to the next meeting, Mr Mayor.
Do we have a second to that, please? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah? Right, everyone all right with that? Sorry, two seconds, sorry. I'll bring Stephen just for the legal aspect of it, yeah?
Probably just easiest if I read the rule out, Mr Mayor. So there is a closure motion or a suspension motion to adjourn a debate. What the rule says is if the motion is seconded and the chair or mayor thinks the item has not been sufficiently discussed and cannot reasonably be so discussed on that occasion, he or she will put the procedural motion to the vote. So if you as mayor think, because of the issues that Councillor Brown has raised, the matter cannot be sufficiently discussed today, then it proceeds straight to a vote as to whether that adjournment should take place.
Inspired by Tristan, he sent us loads of information. We've had open letters to the project board. We've also had officers all bombarding us with information over the last week. And I think we need to digest that, be armed with the actual facts and figures from the tender. Because again, I'll repeat, it may not even stack up business-wise. We don't know yet. And to have that debate, we couldn't make a decision today, an informed decision. Right. It'd be foolhardy for us to do so.
Right. The motion has been proposed and seconded. I'm prepared to put the motion, the amendment to the council to vote on, that we take it away and get the facts and figures and then bring that back. 2 seconds. Let me finish. Whoa. No. Right. Sit down, please, Councillor Leroy. No. Councillor Leroy, please sit down. We've had a motion. We've had an amendment or a procedural motion. It's been seconded. I'm going to put that to the vote when I finish talking. If the council don't want it, they don't want it. And then we'll carry on with the motion. So it's down to the council. But what we're doing, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, please be quiet. If people want to speak, there's a process for the members of the public to speak. We've had a procedural motion. It's been seconded. I'm giving my decision. Please be respectful and listen to what I'm saying. What I'm asking for now, I'm going to put it to the vote. If people don't want it, you vote it down. But what I'm saying is, I agree we haven't got the facts and figures to make an informed decision. The seconder was put in by Councillor Davies that we'll have a special council meeting when we have all the facts and figures to that, so we know exactly what we're dealing with, because as Councillor Brown said, if the numbers don't stack up, then we need to make sure we make the right decisions, and that is the time then when we can have this debate. So I'm going to put the amendment by Councillor... Right, quiet please. Councillor Leroy, I've explained my decision. I know you're not going to be happy, but unfortunately it's been please do not use them words. And that's a warning. Do not use them words. I'm sorry. It's been debated in this chamber as we do our business. Now, please do not use them words. Councillor Quartermain, can we just have a bit of order? I'm going to put it to the vote. I'm not having no more points of order. I'm going to go straight to the vote. Right? So the vote is Councillor Brown's amendment or procedural motion, seconded by Councillor Davies. All those in favour? Steve, do you want to? It's what? That's carried. So that's it. So that's been carried. So we move on to the next agenda item. Thank you. Next agenda item is... Right, can we, excuse me, final warning, or I'm clear the gallery. This is democracy. We've had a vote. We want to make sure the decisions we make are right. Please be respectful. Thank you. Please be respectful, or unfortunately I'm going to have to ask you all to leave, and I don't want to do that. Come on, we've had a good debate. You know, we've had a process. Right. Can you clear it? Can we clear the gallery, please? Clear the gallery, please. We're gonna have to. Right, can we adjourn for 15 minutes and then we'll come back when the gallery's clear, please? Thank you. Right, councillors, we get started again, yeah? Thank you. So we go on to item number 11 to agree the following changes. Can we take them en bloc? Is that all right? Yeah? All agreed, yeah? Yeah? Thank you. And go to item 12, which is questions. Question 1, Councillor Martin. 2, Councillor Brown, Leader of the Council. Councillor Martin, please.
Afternoon. This is the third time I've asked this question in various meetings over the last 6 months. Hopefully, since you're the leader, I might get an answer. How many retail commercial units does the council own which are currently empty? How much in lost revenue is this costing the council in rent and business rates? And what is the council actually doing to get these businesses and shop units potentially open?
Councillor Brown, please.
Well, I'm sorry, Councillor, you've had to ask this question 3 times. You asked me once and I'll answer you. With one, on Gisborne High Street, in terms of commercial units, when we're talking about units, that's Shorty's gym premises, which is the ground floor of Gisborne Town Hall, which was only recently vacated on the 14th of March, and will be rapidly remarketed and minimised downtime. Passing rent was £6,750. The business qualified for small business relief, with the council receiving government grant in lieu of £950 per year. Just to go a little bit further on terms of business centre units, out of 155, there is currently 22 spaces. That's an 86% occupancy rate. Business centre tenancies of this type are designed in easy in and easy out to support the types of small businesses that tend to use these facilities as a base. As a result, tenancy positions are expected to fluctuate rather than be occupied 100% all of the time. So I hope that answers your question. I think what you were talking about, sort of high street retail units, just one.
Do you have a second? No, happy? Brilliant, thank you. Go on to question 2, Councillor Grogan to Councillor Massey. Councillor Grogan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, it's to Councillor Quartermain. Unless you want to do that as well. With the welcome news announced that the government is to provide £26 million for the North East to help local authorities in dealing with potholes. That's according to BBC Politics North. Potholes cause damage averaging around about £460 according to the RAC. In the borough's defence, and we've touched on that, believe it or not, our roads are one of the best. I know, Steve, it's contentious. Redcar and Cleveland's roads are quite high up in the league tables when compared to other authorities. That said, in Kirkleatham we have 3 main arteries in and out of Redcar: Kirkleatham Lane, Westlake Road and Plantation Road, with the latter two having many issues regarding road surface conditions and potholes. To access all the funds available, local authorities will have to publish an annual progress report to see how many potholes we've actually filled. Can you please explain to the Chamber how we will get the maximum amount of funds to fill in these potholes? When will these funds become available to use, and who decides where is best to send those resources in those said reports?
Councillor Quartermain, please.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor Grogan, and thanks for pointing out that we have been on top of the table there, and number 1 at times as well. So you know, I know people want to laugh at that. I don't know. You know what it is? We love to moan about our roads, but actually, Redcar and Cleveland have been highlighted as one of the best areas for the roads. And I understand your argument there as well, Councillor Kay, because you know Sanghill Road does need doing. It was on the 6-year rolling resurfacing programme for last year, and we had a debate in the chamber about it. But obviously the works with Northumbrian Water took precedence, and so it was kind of pointless resurfacing the road just for them to like start digging it all up again, and then us going back and patching it up. So there's been a delay on that, and I think you're probably more than aware of that. Yeah, it'll get done. I think 24th of February for 12 weeks, something like that. So last week we received the details of the information we required to publish, and we'll do this by the end of June 2025. We have reviewed the requirements and are still compiling that information at the moment, so I can't give you everything that you need today. We will have confirmation of the additional funding in the next in the coming weeks, and this additional funding will be targeted at the poorest, with the areas with the poorest conditions on the data. And we do that by our annual surveys. The planning officers go out there, the highways officers go out there and work that one out. Is that? Do you have a supplementary to that? Yeah. Okay.
I asked that question, not you. Have you got a supplementary question, Councillor Grogan?
But yeah, it's nice to talk to a Labour politician about a hole that isn't a black one. I couldn't get that in there, sorry. Obviously, with the £26 million that has been said, but I've looked on the Gov website and it's 1.6 billion between 317 local authorities. I don't understand how the funds are evaluated, for each authority. So obviously, worked on that premise, we could get in excess of over £5 million worth of funding. But because we're close to the top and doing our work well, will that have will that go against us? I don't know if we've got any information regarding that.
Councillor Quartermain?
I can't announce today, how much we've actually asked. It's a bit wishful thinking, 5 million, but yeah, if you divide it equally, but there's different areas have different types of roads or more, so it's the TVCA that will work that out. The allocation to the funding will go directly to them, and then they proportion it out as they've done before. I mean, I do have a bit more information. I know the BBC report as well spoke about the 75% that we will receive as part of the funding. 25% of that is like an incentive to get that information out. So, and I'm quite confident that we'll achieve that. But even if we just achieve the 75%, I have to say that that's going to be more than we've received under previous governments. So even that 75% will be an increase. So hopefully that it will be able to work better on that. Yeah, I think that's about. But if you've got any more questions, you know where I am.
Thank you. Question number 4, Councillor Kerr to Councillor question 3, Councillor Salvin to Councillor Brown, Leader of the Council. So with that.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Brown, you pretty much answered my question at the start of the meeting, I think. The only thing I would add is, I never thought I'd say this as a Conservative, but I think with an industry with such strategic importance, I think myself personally, I can't speak on the whole group, I think I would support on your endeavour to seek nationalisation of potentially the steel project. But yeah, thanks for answering the question anyway at the start. I withdraw my question, Mr. Mayor.
Right, thank you. Move on to question 4, Councillor Kerr to Councillor Massey, if it's right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Massey, for taking my question. We've discussed procurement already this afternoon. The reputational damage to this council in Gisborough has been significant, and that impacts on us all, and it particularly impacts on the Gisborough councillors, all of us. So after Bakehouse Square, we would have hoped for care and expertise in any subsequent project, but instead we have something wholly inappropriate. So I am wondering if you can say anything about what you think might be going wrong with the procurement process and how we can address those issues. We've already as well had the £1 million decision that was urgent that had to come this afternoon. And I know what I'm talking about is small fry compared to that, but it's still important. It's important for local people. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Massey, please.
Yes, thank you for the question. So the question's been assigned to me, I think, after consultation with the questioner, because it speaks to a broader procurement issue, but the specific issues in Bakehouse Square and with the steps that have been referenced do sit with other portfolios and portfolio holders, so Councillor Pallister in terms of Bakehouse Square and Councillor Quartermain in terms of the highways issues that exist around the steps. When we talk about procurement, I think in terms of the council and as members, particularly if we're not experts in the particular area, we need to think about it in two ways. Procurement for this council exists in terms of the legal processes that we have to follow as part of the public contract regulations and the council's own procedures. And then also after that, the contract management that exists. And this is the responsibility of individual officers throughout the council, as opposed to directly the procurement team. The procurement team makes sure the first one's done correctly, but the second part of that is done by individual officers across the council. So the issue with Bakehouse Square, I believe from conversations with my colleagues, resolved around the quality of work, not directly the procurement issue. So it was point 2, not point 1. And it was in fact picked up by point 2, those contract management queries. So when the contractor had finished, the contract management stepped into place, recognised that the work was by no means up to standard, and that has now since been rectified, so it was resolved thankfully by the proper route, but I'm aware of the reputational damage, particularly for members in Gisborough. With the steps, a lack of understanding of the specification and indeed the process, I think internally, was present, as opposed to inherent flaws with the overall process. Nothing went wrong with the process, but things went wrong, unfortunately. Human error happens, and human error occurred, but the process itself, in terms of procurement and indeed contract management, was followed. So what do we do about it, which was the main question and the main strive, I think, of your main push here. So contract management and procurement training is delivered to council staff. But as I've said, human error can occur, but this is delivered regularly. So we're in April now, so it hasn't been delivered yet this month, but every month this year, there have been sessions for contract management and procurement that council staff, who are effectively budget authorisers, should attend and are invited to attend. Despite this, though, I would say that since 2020, again, this is Councillor Pallister and the Regens team, the growth team's work, the council has delivered 50 projects in regeneration since 2020, with a cumulative value of over £70 million, of which 28 million was delivered in the last year. So I know that these are important issues, and I'm fully aware that we should get them right. But in the main, in the round, I think the council is doing quite well in this space, but that doesn't excuse the areas where they have not. But to me, the examples given are attributable to human error or contractor issues, as opposed to any systematic flaws in the council's overall process. But as I said earlier on, the offer continues to be available if members and groups are wishing to get further into the procurement space. Our small team would be happy to have further conversations with council members.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, do you have a supplementary question, please?
Thank you, Councillor Massey, for your response. I would like to know, and I've been asked this question by residents, how much longer they are going to be inconvenienced by the closure of the public footpath. Now, maybe Councillor Quartermain is best placed to answer that, I don't know. Or maybe nobody knows at this stage. But we would like to know for how much longer it's going to continue. Thank you.
Councillor Quartermain, do you know that answer? I'm being asked. Look, Councillor Massey is looking at you.
Just want to, again, just repeat that.
But were you not listening?
No, I missed that last bit.
Really? You weren't listening to me? Oh,
well, you can email me if you want.
No, it's fine. I can ask you again. For how much? For how much longer is the footpath going to be closed? In other words, how long till we get it all resolved? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, the answer is I don't know how long it's going to be. So please email me. Yeah, I will find out, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 5, Councillor Leroy to Councillor Earl, please. Councillor Leroy.
Like councillors, I recently received an email regarding carpet poverty. I became aware of the issue of residents not being able to afford carpets around 2010-11 when campaigning in the now demolished Closes estate in Redcar. The situation has only got worse around the borough over the past 15 years. The poverty and hardship rates in this area are now eye-watering. I have previously mentioned that 1 in 4 children grow up in poverty. What support is available to assist with carpet poverty locally? Feel free to have a motion and not answer if you like.
Thank you. Councillor Earl, please.
Thank you very much. I will answer, and thank you for your question. Very good. So in terms of carpet poverty, if we take it more widely, we're talking about floor coverings, not just physical carpets, but floor coverings. Something suitable rather than just a bare floor that somebody goes into in a new house. And also there's the wider issue also of furniture poverty, houses that literally don't have beds for people to sleep in. Now, in terms of your question about what can we do to assist, I have to say here, thanks to the efforts of Councillor John McHugh here, this council is signed up to the multibank, and we can get various items through the multibank. And my understanding is that the multibank here is inundated with requests for goods, but unfortunately carpets, floor coverings don't actually come into what the multibank can afford. So what can we do as the council? Well, carpets are classified as decoration, and therefore they're not a legal requirement for any landlord, private sector or social housing to provide. It is usual practice that when properties are currently relet by social landlords, an assessment is made of the condition of carpets. Those that are damaged and heavily soiled will be removed. If floor coverings are in a reasonable condition, then when the property is viewed, the prospective tenants are asked if they wish to keep the carpets or have them removed. If the new tenant opts to retain the floor coverings, it will be their responsibility to maintain and replace as they see fit. Carpet poverty and furnishing social housing, this is something that has been discussed previously, and we've already heard about the poverty strategy that's coming into place fairly soon. So I want to assure you that we take the issue of poverty in its widest sense very, very seriously, and we will be bringing to Cabinet a poverty strategy in the next cycle. And the strategy will put in place a framework through which the council will seek to mitigate the impact of poverty on people in the borough. This will mean doing what is directly within the gift of the council to support residents, to listen and learn from the lived experience of people with first-hand knowledge, as well as being a facilitator by bringing together and working with government and key partners to further influence our collective efforts across the borough. So we can put that poverty strategy in place, but really we need to be engaging with groups outside the council to make it work. Now, I know this is happening in other areas of the country, and I know that there are grants available in other parts of the country for just this purpose, to provide basic furnishings for housing.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Leroy?
Yeah, it works. Okay, not been shut out permanently. Right. The next question then will be related to poverty as well. Thank you very much for your considered response. It's greatly appreciated. With the spring statement that's just been announced, there's the anticipation that hundreds of thousands will be put into poverty as a result of the spring statement, unfortunately. But I did see there was division in the Labour benches with regards to some MPs were calling for a wealth tax on wealth over 10 million. I'd just be interested to understand your position personally, as somebody obviously who's dealing with hardship on a day-to-day basis in your cabinet role. What's your particular position on taxing fortunes over 10 million to obviously lower the burden on the poorest in society?
Councillor Earl, it's up to you if you want to answer that, but that's not part of this question, so it's entirely yourself.
Feel free to pass a motion.
Do you want a question? Do you want to answer it or not?
I've heard these arguments, Tristan. I'm not in a position to actually influence this. What I would say is we need a complete structural realignment, because the gap between the wealthy and the poor in this country, it's awful. And I have to say, just you know, following on from the leader's comments, the idea that we could lose the remnants of steel making in this area, that we could lose jobs in this area because the health inequalities that we see because of poverty, people need really good jobs and they need the aspiration for a better future. Now, I don't think we can do that alone as a council. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Question 6, Councillor Leroy to Councillor Pallister. Councillor Leroy, please.
So a resident recently received a letter to say that borough planning control actions were on hold. If true, for how long will this be the case? And does this now mean that potentially illegal and dangerous structures can be erected at will and with impunity?
Thank you. Councillor Palliser, please.
Thanks for your question, Councillor Leroy. You'll be pleased to know that this isn't true. And you'll also be aware that we have had the senior planning enforcement officer off on long-term sick, and they've now left the authority. So we've got an interim planning officer to obviously we've continued to do the most health and safety risk enforcement notices, but we've also with the teams, they've obviously jumped in and tried to support the lack of capacity in the team. We've now got someone covering the role on an external consultancy on a short-term basis until we have a permanent recruitment into the role in due course. No, it's not true. We haven't put none of the planning enforcement notices on actions, and we're still taking seriously any planning issues that any planning enforcement issues that we've got that are a serious risk as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to come back, Councillor Leroy?
Yes, just to understand why letters are then being issued which state that such actions are on hold. And this is to be combined with an email I received where enforcement officers didn't have access to a DVLA database to be able to remove cars from obstructing the road or obstructing pavements. And then also another email I received where there was a failure to secure an unstable building after storm damage as well. It appears as though there's chronic deficits in this particular department. So to understand why letters are being issued with saying hold.
Thank you. Councillor Palliser, please.
Councillor Brooks just informed me that it wouldn't come through. It would come through your department. It wouldn't come through the planning and the senior planning enforcement officer within the growth and planning department. I mean, I'm pleased because we've obviously had issues, haven't we? We've got we did have a lack of capacity in the planning enforcement team. There's no doubt about that. We have had one of our key officers off on sick quite a long time, and we haven't really been able to recruit to that role, but luckily, and I'm pleased to say that we can now recruit, and in this short term we've got someone through a consultancy basis so we can get through. There is a backlog. As I've said, the rest of the team have been dealing with the most at-risk cases when we've been informed that there could be health and safety risks, and they have dealt with them as soon as possible, but there is a backlog that we need to get through. I know all members of probably in this chamber have got buildings that they think are a blight in their area and may not be a great health and safety risk at this point, but still a blight to the area, so we need to get through them. And we also need to make sure that our conservation area action management plans sort of when we agree that we want the heritage of these places to be as Gisborough, Saltburn, some of our key areas that have unbelievably heritage opportunities, then we don't want them also to be neglected. So to have more capacity in that team will also make sure our conservation area action plans are actually actions, I suppose, and not, we don't have them left with poor windows and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. Final question, Councillor Joy to Councillor Quatermain, please. Councillor Joy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Quatermain. Given the proposed changes to car park fees and charges and the various flip-flopping,
on charges at various sites around the borough, I wonder if this administration lacks a bit of an incoherent strategy for car parking. Instead of a well-thought-out approach that balances revenue generation, town centre accessibility and environmental concerns, we see a reactive piecemeal approach and decisions driven by political posturing in the chamber, followed by reactive decisions to lift charges at certain sites but not others. Why is this council playing whack-a-mole with parking policy rather than setting out a clear evidence-based strategy that ensures fairness, consistency and long-term sustainability for our high streets and communities?
Thank you. Councillor Quartermain, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. Bit of a political question, but okay. I understand the frustration with... I've taken some time on this one. Okay, so it's a bit lengthy. I understand the frustration with changes to parking charges across the borough, as it is across all local authorities. A good parking strategy should balance support for local businesses, keeping traffic flowing, and generate income for council services. At the same time, we, as with all local authorities in England, have to respond to different local needs, which can sometimes make decisions seem inconsistent. There was a formal parking strategy in place, the car parking strategy 2021 to 24, and this is currently under review. While a new strategy provides a framework for managing parking across Redcar and Cleveland, inherited pricing structures and financial constraints have made it difficult to implement some of its recommendations. For example, I would like to introduce meters that can differentiate between resident and visitors, allowing us to freeze or reduce charges for locals while focusing fees on out-of-town visitors. However, the technology required to do this is too expensive to introduce at this stage. Parking charges vary for several reasons. Busier areas, such as town centres, often have higher charges because demand is greater, while quieter areas may have lower fees or even free parking. Some car parks cost more to maintain due to security and staffing needs. We and other councils also use pricing to manage congestion, ensuring that prime locations are not blocked by long stay parking. Additionally, some charges may have been set years ago and not fully aligned with newer policies. Policy changes can generate strong opinions and often become the target for political point scoring, believe it or not. However, our focus is on ensuring that parking decisions are based on evidence and the needs of local communities, not just short-term political pressures. We recognise the need for a clearer and more consistent approach to parking. That is why we are committed to reviewing our parking policies and developing a long-term plan that prioritises fairness, supports our high streets and ensures sustainability for the future. Ongoing consultation and improvements will help us create a system that works better for residents, businesses and visitors alike. Parking arrangements across the borough vary to reflect the distinct needs and characteristics of each town, aiming to balance accessibility, manage demand and support local businesses. For example, Saltburn offers free parking in the town centre as part of a strategy to encourage visitors and stimulate economic activity. As a popular seaside destination, Saltburn benefits from offering free parking to make the town more accessible to locals and tourists. This approach supports local shops, restaurants and other services, helping to boost footfall in the area. Free parking makes the town a welcoming place, particularly for families and day trippers who are likely to stay for longer periods. That benefits a medium kind of size town. Gisborne, on the other hand, uses a parking system with 2 hours of free parking. This policy helps manage the demand for parking in the smaller, more compact town centre. By offering 2 hours of free parking, the council aims to support local businesses by ensuring that shoppers, visitors and those running errands have enough time to park without feeling rushed. The parking disc system also helps prevent long-term parking, ensuring spaces are available for others, so we need that turnover of parking. Gisborough's approach is designed to provide a balance between convenience for visitors and a turnover of parking spaces to keep the town centre accessible. Redcar has paid parking in place as part of its strategy to manage parking demand, particularly in the busier town centre and along the seafront. Redcar, being the larger urban area with higher footfall, faces greater demand for parking. Paid parking helps ensure that spaces are available for short-term visitors rather than being occupied by long-term parkers. It also generates revenue for the local council, which can be reinvested into maintaining and improving local infrastructure. The 1 hour free parking in Redcar is designed to encourage quick visits, manage congestion, and improve turnover in parking spaces, particularly in the busier areas. Each town's parking policy and the parks is tailored to its own unique needs. That's why we don't have consistent parking charges right across the borough in a blanket. Ensuring that visitors have access to parking while managing demand and supporting local businesses. Saltburn prioritises accessibility for tourists. Gisborough aims to support local retail with a reasonable time limit, and Redcar balances accessibility with a practical need for revenue generation and congestion management in a busier urban environment. So I'm just trying to highlight why there's differential charging across the area. We can't just blanket things. There's different needs there. So that's kind of my answer to your question. Is there a parking strategy? Yes, there is.
Councillor Joy, have you got a supplementary question after all that?
Yeah, after all that. Thank you, Councillor Quartermain. That was very comprehensive. I wasn't expecting that lengthy answer. I wasn't sure who wrote that. Was it you or Tolstoy? Because it felt like it was the latter. The reason I asked the question was there's a disparity. So I totally accept the idea that there has to be a range of varies. We're such a varied borough. Totally get that. But my issue was around Pinchinthorpe Walkway, which has exactly the same offering in terms of a country walkway where people go to exercise their dogs, run, exercise, enjoy nature, as Flats Lane, who've just had their car parking lifted. So that's where there's a bit of an anomaly, and that's what my issue is around. So would you be willing to work to look at areas like that that sort of fall outside a decision that's been made, even though they're the same? And look at also volunteer parking, because volunteers have to pay to park there to actually help the upkeep of the walkway, which seems unfair. So would you be prepared to help with that?
Councillor Quartermain?
I'll certainly be prepared to sit down and listen to your suggestions on that. As I said with my answer to that question, what we inherit here is based on years and years of boundary changes. I mean, we used to be Langborough Council, and before that. So you end up inheriting a lot of historical pricing structures. Now there is differences between the walkways as well and the parks, but we can argue that one out. But yeah, I mean, ideally you would try and resolve all these issues. And ideally we wouldn't pay for parking at all, but we need to maintain these things. But it's when you try and change these things, it's so emotive. It's so difficult to do. But yeah, I'm interested in trying to balance right across, not just the parks obviously, but across the towns, how we do that better. There's certainly work that we can do in Redcar for a start, which I'm also working on. But yeah, let's get together.
Thank you, Councillor Quartermain. Right, that's it. The meeting's finished. Thank you very much for your attendance. Have a good evening. Can I be upstanding, please?